this is going fast. You got a lot going on here, okay? So, you've got your camera, check. You got your film, check. You found a lab that you love, check. And you are ahead of 99% of the film photographers out there. Welcome back. My name is Matt. This is Hidden Light, and today we're going to talk about like baby's introduction to film. For those of you who are just now getting started in the film photography world or thinking about it, but maybe you're not quite sure, this is for you. This is the primer. This is like my first recommended steps in getting into film. There are no right answers. There are no wrong answers. There are a lot of people who are going to disagree with how I recommend you do this. That's awesome. Do whatever works for you, right? First and foremost. Don't listen to people on the internet because they're useless. I'm just going to tell you what I would do if I was getting into film for the first time now. Step one. We'll jump right into it. You got to have a film camera. Do not buy your first film camera on Etsy. Don't do it. Don't buy film cameras on Etsy. Why? Because they're often broken and they're often insanely expensive. When in doubt, go to your local shop, pick up the camera, and hold it in your hands. If you can hold it in your hands, there's a reasonable chance that you might be able to tell if it works or not. If you have to buy it online because you live in the middle of nowhere or you live under a rock and there's no camera store near you, totally cool. Camera stores are fewer and further between anymore. Buy from an online, reputable, used gear seller. You can buy a brand new Nikon FM from like B&H for all the money on earth. Or you can buy a used one from KEH or MBP or wherever else you would buy one for like way less. Used gear is your friend, especially if you can either hold it in your hands before you buy it or return it if it turns out that it's borkin. So, I'm going to show you just real quick, and we've done videos about like each of these individual things. We're just cramming everything into one video. So how to tell if the camera works? First, you should be able to cycle it through all of its various processes. You should be able to move everything that's supposed to move. Focus rings, aperture rings, shutter speed knobs. Every camera's different. They all function differently. And you should be able to hear shutter speeds do different things. So for instance, if I go down, and this is where your camera's going to struggle, to like a 1 second shutter speed. I just broke the camera. It won't cycle. It's not going to run on a 1 second shutter speed because that's the way my life works. Okay, so how about quarter of a second? Nope, no dice. How about 15th of a second? Hey, okay, so I can get a 15th of a second. I know right away I'm not buying this camera for any money at all because it already needs a CLA. What's a CLA? A CLA is a clean, lube, and adjust, and that's where you send the camera to some dude. We'll call him Bob. And Bob will take your camera, take it apart, clean all the gunk out of it that's accumulated since the 40s or the 60s or however old it is, and lubricate it and put it back together. If it needs additional parts like a new shutter or the window that covers your frame counting window, Bob will either source those parts or tell you that you're SOL. So you need to be able to figure out that the camera works. So make sure the shutter speeds do shutter speed things. Make sure that you can wind and shoot the camera at each shutter speed. And then also make sure that the camera will stop down with an appropriate amount of time to each of the apertures. So what I'll do is pick like a reasonably slow shutter speed, say 15th of a second, and I'll just watch and make sure that the camera will actually stop down to each aperture every time I shoot it. Sometimes you can use like a flashlight to look down on it and see what's going on. Super important that you can see it do that. If all your shutter speeds work, all of your apertures are doing what they're supposed to, and then when you open the camera, and every camera has a different opening function, you don't see any schmutz laying around, and you're looking for light seals that are good, which this one is not. Light seal is what makes your camera light tight, right? So that the light stays out and the black stays in. If you're there, I would recommend grabbing a hold of that camera if it seems like a good deal and shoot it and see what happens. We did a whole video about making sure that you get a camera that works. Go check it out. But that's your little primer. Make sure it does all the stuff. Okay, so you've got your beautiful new camera. Very exciting. When in doubt, get a camera that's fully mechanical and does not require batteries. You can use a battery in this, but why bother? Who needs a light meter? Once you've got your camera, you need to figure out film. Everyone does this wrong. What most people do, they got their camera and they go buy 15 different films and they shoot one roll of each film and they're just testing. They're just testing, trying to figure out, oh, I like this film doesn't work, I screwed up this one, but oh well, I only have one roll of it. No, I recommend you buy a brick, like 10 plus rolls, at least 3 rolls of the same film, because you're going to screw up at least one of them. It's a rite of passage. We all do it. Get a couple of rolls of the same film stock so that you can learn what it really does. Shoot it in different lighting scenarios. Shoot it in different situations. Once you've played around with a couple of different film stocks, like shooting 5 rolls of each, like go buy a pro pack of Portra, even though it's like the most expensive film that money can buy. Shoot all 5 rolls, because you're going to screw up one of them, so you really only get 4, probably, right? Shoot them all and see what you feel. See where that film excels. See where it struggles a little bit. See what's happening. Now, in order to do that, in order to process 10 rolls of Kentmere or Arista or Portra or Fuji or whatever it is, and you can start cheap, it's not going to hurt anybody. Cheap is good for you. You're going to need to choose a lab. Do not send your film to Walgreens. Don't do it. It takes forever, you don't get your negatives back, and the scans are objective trash. Don't do it. Instead, find a local lab, if there's one in a town or city that's even a little close to you. Either choose it as an excuse to go visit that place somewhat frequently, or figure out if they'll accept film to mail in. Spoiler alert, pretty much all of us do. And work with that lab. Learn the consistency, learn the way that they work, learn how often they process film, learn how long it takes for the turnaround to happen, learn if they have any special requirements or conditions or whatever. Learn if they have a bulk deal where you can save like $50 by paying up front for a certain number of rolls. See how each individual lab works. If a lab manages to piss you off, great, move to a different one. If they're doing a good job and doing what you ask them to do it and doing it in a reasonable amount of time and you like working with them, tell your friends about working with that lab, right? Makes sense. So once you've chosen a lab, you've chosen your film stock. I like to shoot black and white to start off with any given camera just to see. You're going to send off your film, get developed, and you're typically going to get scans back of some variety. Figure out if that lab offers different sizes of scans. And, okay, this is where everyone's going to disagree with me. Buy the biggest scans money can buy. Get the big, the whale, the ginormous, most huge scans that you can afford. Because if you scan your film really big once, you'll never have to scan it again. But if you pay for the dinky little baby scans that it turns out you can't actually make prints from, or they show up to you as only JPEGs and you can't actually make substantial edits to your JPEGs, you're going to rescan it later anyway. So why would you pay for the scans up front at all? When we process film, provide you with enormous scans and we'll give you TIFFs at no extra cost, specifically so that we scan it once and you never have to think about it ever again. Right? Makes sense. Whew, this is going fast. You got a lot going on here, okay? So, you've got your camera, check. You got your film, check. You found a lab that you love, check. Then, after all of that, you need a way to organize both your negatives that you get back from your film because you're not sending your film to Walgreens, and your scans, right? So I organize all my film in these cool print file binders, in these cool print file sleeves. So like, this is what my film from 2015 to 2020 looks like before I started shooting film in a serious way. Every roll is labeled. They fit in this beautiful binder like they're supposed to go here. Now, how do I find the scans from each roll, or how do I find the roll that goes with each scan? When I get my files back from Hidden Light, there's a twin check number. It's a 4-digit number that's physically on the film. So like, here's a roll from Thanksgiving in Colorado. And there's a twin check number here, 0231. So if I ever need to find the scans that I have from this roll, all I have to go do is go hunt around in my computer to 2020 and go see if I can find the roll 0231. And it'll be organized 0231, frame 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. Really easy to get your hands on all of the files, no matter what you're doing, no matter how many years it's been. Because when I organize my files on my computer, when I've downloaded them from my lab, it's year, month, day, frame number or roll number or whatever it is. So this would be 2020, November, whatever day I had it developed, and then 0231. And then there will be all the photos. If you do this up front, if you organize stuff as it comes back to you, it is so much easier than trying to do it 15 years from now when you have literally thousands of rolls of film strewn all over your house in random boxes. So do it up front, do it as it comes back to you, label your film, put it in a binder, organize your negatives, and you are ahead of 99% of the film photographers out there. Because you're experimenting with films in depth, you know where to find everything, you know that your camera works. Once you've got a baseline system squared away, then you can experiment with different films or different cameras, move to medium format, move to large format, do all the crazy stuff, learn to develop at home, whatever it is. But like, choose one variable to change at a time. Don't buy a new camera every week and then change a different film stock every week and then use 10 different labs over the course of a year unless you have a specific reason to do it. The fewer variables you change at any given time, the better off you're going to be, the better your images will be. And then here's the trick. Shoot a lot. 35mm film costs on average right now about $1 a frame every time you press the shutter. Medium format costs 2 to 5 times more depending on how big of a negative you're shooting. So you have to be willing to really get in there and shoot a whole bunch. The more you shoot, the better you'll get. I learned this last year. I didn't want it to be true, but it was. I shot a whole bunch of film, and my results were excellent because I was shooting. But like, when I only shot 35 rolls over the course of 5 years, my results were sort of meh all the time because I wasn't spending enough time with any given camera or film stock or whatever to get used to it and to learn how it works and what it likes. If you have any questions about how we process film, how to work with a lab, any of that, put those in the comments down below. I'm trying to pay a little bit more attention to the comments. And yeah, let us know how you started into film. Some of us, I know some of you have been around film your whole lives, and that's how you used to take pictures because that was the only way you could take pictures. But just give us your story. How'd you get into shooting film? And what do you wish you had done different? Hit us in the comments down below. And see you in the next one.